Hello, I'm Sam from Niche Solutions and I'd like to welcome you all to Still Niche episode 4. Today I'm filming in the scenic gardens of Toaster Mill Brewery near Niche Solutions HQ. In today's video, we'll hear from Paul at Red Church Brewery, who's brewed using our FERMO SOUR yeast. We'll hear from Jason at Broadtown Brewery, who's used our FERMO Saison. And finally, we'll hear from Stuart at Brewboard, who's used our most popular yeast, the AY5. Let's kick things off by hearing from Paul at Red Church Brewery.
Hi, I'm Paul Hancock. I'm the head brewer here at Red Church Brewery in Harlow. Red Church as a business has been around since 2011 and started in Poyser Street in East London, where we had a tap room in the Arches and did a lot of American style beers, but we had a big sour beer program as well, which was called the Urban Farmhouse brand. Fast forward to now, we've been here since 2016 on our Harlow site, but we still like to do our sour beer projects, we still like to do our American beers, and we like to mix it up as well. We do a core range of 8 beers and we do 4 rotational seasonals, depending on what we feel like doing. And I'm going to talk to you today about our latest creation, which is Amethyst, which is a heavy blackberry fruited Berliner Weisse, but fermented with Niche's new Fermo Sour yeast. Much simpler process. There's no need to be using lactobacillus or using a kill step in this, because this yeast ferments entirely in the fermenter, does all the souring for you first. You then need to add another yeast just to finish the job after. And it's got its own unique character. It's brilliant. It's a lovely yeast, throws a lot of floral, fruity qualities. When it was fermenting, it smelled like meadow flowers, if that makes sense. Really interesting. It's unlike a lot of yeasts I've used. And then the final result ended up being a really lovely, vibrant, blackcurrant forward, raspberry even, beer that's soft, crisp, dry on the palate, but has still got its unique meadow flower, floral, fruity qualities as well. So I'm going to talk to you a bit about Amethyst itself. As I said, it's a Blackberry Berliner Weisse style fruited beer. Called Amethyst because when we originally conceived the idea, we knew obviously putting a lot of blackberries in it, it's going to be quite blackberries being dark and red, this is going to come across with an unusual colour, which, as you can see, is a lovely sort of blush pink, purple. On the aroma, blackberries, loads of blackberries comes through, and it could even be raspberries. It's like a very sharp, clean aroma, but still has that Fermo Sour unique yeast character, which I think is meadow flowers, could be even lavender, maybe forget-me-not flowers. Totally unique to the yeast. I really love it. It goes well with the blackberries. Yeah, crisp, clean. It's got the sourness, but it's not like a lacto-firm. It's so soft. This is 3.2, this pH. When we first fermented it, the wort came down to 3.5 and came down a bit more when we added the fruit. But it's so clean, it's so soft, it could almost be a carbonated fruit juice. It's nothing like that the pH would suggest it is. I became a brewer, like many do, as a home brewer first, and it ended up being a hobby going mad. It was like, when I was growing up, my dad was into home brewing, so I used to help him out and do some brewing bits and pieces. He used to do tins and stuff that I used to buy in the home brew shops back then, but I got into it that way. Never really thought about being a pro brewer until quite a bit later. And I've been doing brewing as a professional now for about 10, 11 years. But yeah, it was a hobby gone mad. So it was, I went to university, trained in chemistry, and then when I came out of that, actually, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give it a go. I thought I wrote letters to every brew pub in the West Midlands area, got a letter back from the local brew pub who said they needed help. So I went and dug a mash tun out for, how long was that, 6, 7, 8 weeks, and they were super happy with me, and I took over as head brewer there and I was there for 5 years after that. Oh, brewing music. Well, it's an eclectic mix. You know, it could be anything from smooth jazz to Iron Maiden to rap to R&B to dance, or it just depends what the guys, or 80s. I mean, there's a couple of guys who are Van Halen fans. So usually disasters, I think, 'cause as every brewer knows, you get those days where it doesn't quite go to plan, and forgetting to put plates in the bottom of kettles being one, or leaving a valve open. I think one time in here when I was doing one of the beers, I forgot to, was running around trying to do a million things, and I forgot to leave shut a valve which had feeds hot water into the kettle. And so when, at the end of the boil, I went round to check and I looked in the kettle and expecting to see 3,500 litres there. And there was 5,000 litres there. So I was like, oh crap, I've got 1,500 litres of water in where it shouldn't be. So yeah, I had to boil all that down, which took forever in a day. It added 7 hours to the brew. I think we were like, is this one for the drain and we're going to chuck it? And I'm like, no, I'm going to get through this, boil it off. And so I persevered with it. We got the beer out, we fermented it, and it turns out to be brilliant anyway. So as it happens, it was dark candy. And that has sold out in 5 weeks. It's been brilliant. So persevere, guys. In a little glass, or with a salad, on a barbecue, that kind of thing. In a warm day, you could just drink it in front of the telly. If you just got hot fatigue, you've had enough of dippers all week and just want something a bit lighter. Okay, so if you're really interested in our beers, you can get them at our web store, where we deliver locally. We also deliver via national couriers to your house. You don't need to come here and get it. We've got a tap room opening coming up. We're going to be doing a series of weekends over the April, May, June period. Please come down, please try our beers. We're going to have it, the full range is going to be available. We're going to have all our freshest stuff on tap. So I hope you get to try it, guys. I really love it. This is a great summertime beer. Cheers.
Thank you to Paul there at Red Church Brewery. I really like the way Paul described the delicate aromas that are given off by the Fermo Sour, and the depth that it gives over just using lactic acid to sour a brew. Let's hear from Jason at Broadtown Brewery, who's used our Fermo Saison.
So hi, my name is Jason Bailiff. I'm the owner of Broadtown Brewery. I set up the brewery in 2018. Really started off as what was an enthusiastic hobby, and was really my plan B for when I eventually leave the railway. And obviously we were hit by COVID in February last year, which catapulted my sort of brewery from being a small niche cask to local pubs brewery, probably only doing about 10 casks a week, to now bottling and providing growlers and prowlers and providing casks to our own brewery and hop chapel and beer gardens we have here. So I started brewing on a much smaller scale, obviously just for home brews, and learnt huge amounts by really treating, even at the home brew level, the smaller brew level, treating it like I was doing big batches right from day one. Silbury Hill, which is our Saison beer that we make, we did a lot of thought on this beer and how we wanted to make it work, because it's a very old style of beer, going right the way back to sort of the 16th century. And with a Saison, usually around sort of the 3% mark would have been traditional, and colours are so variant. They can be many different styles and colours, but we really wanted to go for a light Saison style beer, and also to push the ABV up quite a bit to 5.2 to try and really push through the overall taste of the beer. We went down the road of actually using lager malts to keep the lightness of the beer, but then added Vienna in order to bring out the sort of the more colours, as in more sort of a yellowy ambery colour, but not going over the top with colour, and a little bit of Munich as well in order to add with that colour. Wheat obviously in order to give it the head retention and give it the strength. But we went for the option of using FERMO yeast, which was the Saison yeast, which we use with niche solutions, and we've tried other yeasts in the past, but this one just seemed to give us the continuity of the taste and the profile that we were really looking for, whereas the yeast has to be a dominant factor in the taste, which is what we were going for. And with the Fermo yeast that we use in this one, with the Fermo Saison, this really enabled us to do that. So with this Saison, we went quite traditional as well with the hops. I say traditional. We went for a French hop called Bar Rouge in order to bring out a lot of the berries and taste that we wanted to get from sort of a summer fruits beer. But then we also added Colibri, which was obviously not a French hop, but enabled to give us a little bit of citrus in the taste as well, in order to pull that through. But you can see from the actual colour profile of the beer, we really wanted to push for that really strong summery flavour and taste, and also look. And obviously all of our bottles are actually were bottle conditioned, all of our specials, so we really put a lot of emphasis on the head retention. But what's really great about this yeast is the smell. You get the smell of the yeast, which obviously when we use like an AY4 and AY5, which are also niche yeast, those yeast smells and profiles sit at the back of the beer and allow other flavours to come through. But we really wanted the yeast to have a dominant smell and taste in this beer, and really beautiful smell from the yeast, but also the colour. One thing this yeast also brings to is a lot of citrus with the actual hops, because one thing about the hops is you get the berries from Bar Rouge and the citrusy from the Colibri, but it really is a dominant taste in this beer, which is what we're all about. So I shall give it a go. And it just absolutely punches right from the front to the back. It really sits well with the whole profile of it. The Bar Rouge is really subtle with the berries. The Colibri is definitely there because it pulls through with the citrusy lemony taste, but the yeast just literally just sits like the crust on top of the pie. It really does, and it really gives the whole look and the feel of it just that real dominance that you're after, and really makes me feel like I'm sat in some Flemish field somewhere back in the 16th century. I mean, it wouldn't have been as clear as this, and it wouldn't have been probably as nice as this, because the ABV would have been a lot lower, but this was the taste and the profile that we were really after and we managed to achieve. Oh my goodness. Well, I'm a bit of a rocker, unfortunately. Went through ska, went through Classic Nouveau, everything as I went through my youth. But if I'm totally honest, I actually like sort of Ibiza classics and things like that. So I'm very much into dance music as well. So anything that has a tempo that just keeps me motivated and keeps me focused. Yeah, absolutely, definitely that sort of style. Well, next month is actually, we're going to have our centennial brew, which will be our 100th brew on this particular kit. So we're actually looking at doing a dipper. So we're going to be a double mash. But we're actually looking at trying to use a champagne yeast as well to try and get that ABV up quite a bit. Yeast we deal with obviously with niche solutions, because they've always the standard what we're getting is superb, and we'll always keep working with those guys. Malt from barley, we only use Warminster malts. The only reason why we use Warminster malts is because the quality, in my opinion, is second to none. And to a point where our commitment now is that we've now teamed up with Warminster malts, and we're having our own barley actually grown 3 fields down from us just here at the brewery, and Warminster will be malting it for us, whereas it will be just a Broadtown brewery malt for us, purely for us. And so that's a big step for us, because I mean, as a brewery, as a small batch brewery, we probably only go through 50 or 60 tons a year of barley. For us, it's a big step because we're just building partnerships, which is for us is the longevity of what we're trying to do. Because although we are a 6-barrel system today, this time next year we will be a 15-barrel system, because that's the plan. That's what we're looking to do. So our growth is only going to be successful if our supply chain are like-minded like us. So with Broadtown Brewery, we have a great website where you can go on where there are tasting notes for the majority of our beers that we currently sell. So if you can go to www.broadtownbrewery.co.uk, there is an icon on there or a tab at the top that says shop, and you can go there, and within the shop you can buy all of our core beers that we produce. We have a fantastic 5 that we brew all the time, which gives you a wide array of beer styles. And then we have 2 specials that come out every month. And there's also a button on there that says newsletter, which you can go on there, fill in your details, and you can be updated every month on what we've got coming out that month with a new beer style. So thank you, everybody. Thank you for joining us, and see you at Broadtown Brewery very soon. Cheers.
Thank you very much, Jason. I think it's very obvious to everybody watching just how much Jason values the high quality of ingredients that go into his beer. He's very passionate about it. So we're very proud that the Niche Solutions Fermo Saison has exceeded those standards. Let's hear from Stuart at Brewboard, who's going to discuss our most popular yeast, the AY5.
Hi, I'm Stuart Chambers of Brewboard, based in Harston, Cambridge. And we started the company back in 2017, in January of the year. And we acquired the site we're still in at the moment. You can see behind, we've got all the equipment that we got in from Malrex, and that's been serving us really well. And we're looking now to expand into phase 2 with doubling our cold side capacity. And this gives us the opportunity to produce more of our beer that we're currently making, and go into some specials and get a barrel aging program off the ground as well at some point soon. Here at Brewboard, we produce, as I've mentioned, a lot of pale ales, and one that we produce is one of the first beers that we actually produced here, which is Ripcord, which is our session pale ale, coming in at 4.3. It's full of Citra and Mosaic, and created from the wort to beer by AY5, which is our workhorse yeast that we get from Niche. And we use this yeast in a lot of our beers. In Bambino, which is our 5.1 American Pale. We've got this in this beer down here, Naranjo, and Smokeworks that we do here as well, another pale ale. We use this yeast predominantly because it produces a lot of the traits that we're looking for, which is kind of a solid yeast that attenuates well, flocculates well, and we can understand that we're not going to get a lot of flavour compounds that will detract from the actual adjuncts or the main hops and malt base that we're putting into our beers. So it's a very stable, good workhorse for our production. What we've got here is Ripcord in the glass now, and this is finished off with the AY5. We don't filter or we don't put any fining agents in. The yeast flocculates out really well for what we want to see for clarity with our beer, and if we let it go a bit longer on the cold crash, we can really get it very bright. But I generally like the slight haze into this beer a lot of the time, and just going in. The yeast helps produce a very nice, crisp, clean beer, and it showcases the hops that we're putting in, and you can get a nice feel for the actual malt base that we've used here. Overall, I mean, I've got everything best to say about AY5. Nothing bad to say about it at all. I mean, it is the production workhorse of our brewery. It's a fine yeast. We play quite a lot of metal here, to be honest. From Pantera through to Slipknot through to Opeth. I mean, a lot of music. But then it gets very eclectic. We can then go off to Pingu, which seems to be taking quite hitting us by storm area, just interspersed by Pingu. Yeah, it's mad. It could be deemed as funny, but it was a bit of a disaster at the time for the cleanup. But we decided to, with the NEPA using a Kvike yeast at about gone over 80% of fermentation, we decided to try and add in the lactose, quite a big load. into this fermenter, actually, funnily enough. And before we could get the man-made lid down, it just rose up like a beast, and it sprayed everywhere. I mean, everything got covered. We were all covered. It was a nightmare, but it was quite funny afterwards. Quite possibly a resurgence of red IPAs, red beers might be coming around again, and be a lot of those in production, as well as the more availability to be able to produce a lot more can art and branding through digital printing onto cans. There's a lot of things opening up right now in the market. With regards to where people can try our beer, we've got the tap room at the brewery with a 10-tap wall, and we've got a new reefer deck which we're opening up to serve beer from. We've got a bar opening in Cambridge, which is quite exciting. That's going to be happening in the next few months. We sell a lot of our beer through our direct lines in lots of outlets in Cambridge and around. And we've got a web shop, and people can buy the cans, and obviously in trade, through Breer and places like that as well. Cheers guys, thanks for listening, and hopefully see you soon.
Thank you very much, Stuart. I've been looking to feature the AY5 in a pale ale, and I feel like Brewboard's Ripcord is a perfect example of how this neutral, crisp yeast allows the malt and the hops to shine through into the final product. That concludes our video for today. Thank you very much to Paul, Jason and Stuart for talking to us. You can find details about these breweries down below in the description. If you've brewed a great beer with a Niche Solutions product, reach out to us. We'd love to hear from you. Thanks for watching.